What you're referring to is Café Brit, which look like little peanuts. They're kind of greenish blue peanut-looking things. And when they're roasted, they blow up to twice their size, and they become the roasted coffee that you and I both know and love. Well, once it's roasted, a time bomb starts to tick. Once it's roasted, if oxygen gets to it, it stales it very quickly. And so ideally, coffee should be ground and brewed within a week or two of it being roasted. And the way that they can keep it relatively fresh is, number one, they send it right out. And I'm not trying to give them a plug, but there's something called a one-way valve bag now where it will let air out but not in. And it really does help preserve the coffee for longer. And they use those kinds of bags. So it takes about 4 years for a seedling to grow to the point where it's a tree that's bearing enough berries to get the coffee. And a coffee berry is called a cherry. Usually it's red when it's ripe, although I've seen varieties when I was in Central America that were yellow. But most of them are red. And they have to be hand-picked. At least the best ones are hand-picked so that you avoid getting the ones that aren't quite ripe. Then they have to be processed immediately. The skin is taken off of them, what's called the mucilage, which is the sort of fruity part, which, by the way, tastes rather sweet if you chew it. That has to come off, and it doesn't want to come off the bean. It's sort of like very sticky. So in the wet process, they ferment it deliberately for a very strict, limited period of time, usually about 24 hours. And then it will wash off. And then the beans have to be very carefully dried. So there's a lot to the processing of the beans before they even get exported. Even once the mucilage is taken off, there's something called the parchment, which is the sort of thick skin that's on them. That has to be taken off. And then there's a little very thin tissue paper called the silver skin. And they try to get most of that off, but a lot of that turns into what's called chaff during the roasting process. So it's really a complicated business.